Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Tensions over Russia's war in Ukraine have dominated G-20 talks in Delhi, even after India's Prime Minister urged foreign ministers to put aside their divisions.
Governments that commit atrocities abroad are also likely to violate the rights of people at home. And that's exactly what Russia is doing.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the meeting was marred by Russia's unprovoked and unjustified war. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused the West of burying a deal to allow some Ukrainian grain exports.
A very good morning to all of you, Excellencies, dear colleagues.
The G20, which includes the world's 19 wealthiest nations, plus the European Union, accounts for 85% of global economic output and 2/3 of its population. Earlier, Narendra Modi spoke for developing nations, saying those present had a responsibility to them.
We are meeting at a time of deep global divisions. As Foreign Minister, it is but natural that your discussions are affected by the geopolitical tensions of the day. We all have our positions and our perspectives on how this tension should be resolved. However, at the leading economies of the world, we also have a responsibility toward those who are not in this room.
Protests have erupted in Greece over the rail crash which killed 43 people, with many seeing it as an accident that had been waiting to happen. Rioters clashed with police outside the headquarters of Hellenic Train in Athens, the company responsible for maintaining Greece's railways. Protests were also held in Thessaloniki and the city of Larissa, near where the disaster happened. Rail workers across Greece have begun a one-day strike after Tuesday's crash to protest against conditions on the railways. It's after a passenger service crashed head-on into a freight train, causing the front carriages to burst into flames. The government has said an independent investigation will deliver justice, while rescue workers continue to go through burned and buckled carriages, searching for victims. More than half of Argentina has been left without power after a fire affected the national electricity grid. The capital, Buenos Aires, other major cities and large swathes of the countryside are wholly or partly affected. The fire reportedly started in open fields, affecting crucial power lines in the coastal zone and putting a nuclear power station offline. The blackout comes in the middle of a heatwave and drought in the country. At least 14 people have died, 7 in Madagascar and 7 in Mozambique following a tropical cyclone. According to the latest UN situation reports, the number of people affected by Cyclone Freddy has also risen to 383,000. Flooding is unlikely in southeastern Zimbabwe as Cyclone Freddy did not extend as far inland as previously forecast. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has defended his government's decision to terminate the operations of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in the country. He was responding to a journalist questioning Uganda's decision to close operations. Museveni says it is because Uganda has their own Human Rights Commission, which is mandated by the Constitution. On the 3rd of February, Uganda's Foreign Ministry announced that the government would not renew the mandate of the OCHCR, which was set to expire at the end of March. And environmental campaigner Greta Thunberg has joined a demonstration in support of indigenous rights in Oslo for a 4th day. She danced with other protesters to keep warm in the cold morning temperatures. They're demanding the removal of 151 wind turbines from reindeer pastures used by Sami herders in central Norway, arguing that a transition to green energy should not come at the expense of indigenous rights. It comes a day after she was lifted and carried away by police officers from the finance ministry before she was released. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.